Hey everyone, Alex here from Japanese Masters, and today we're going to go over Minna no Nihongo, Lesson 4, Part 3, that is noun, time, ni, verb. Okay, let's go and dive right on into this. Okay, as you can see here, we have our structure, noun, time, ni, verb. And the first thing we should notice is that there really is no English translation. That's not really because there's not a direct English translation. It's more or less that this time thing can really be anything related to time. So therefore, there's no one translation to this. There's actually a lot of translations. We'll go ahead and look at that in a second, though. The other thing to also note is that this says verb, but really that's if you have a really simple sentence. Really anything can go after this. It basically means the rest of the sentence after the noun, time, ni. So don't just exclusively think that a verb has to come right after this. That's not always the case. But okay, let's go ahead and break this down, and hopefully we'll understand it a little bit better after that. Okay, so what is our in? What is our noun? This is going to be a time noun, like 7 a.m. or May. Now, this is not going to be every single time noun that's out there, and we'll go over that in a second, but think of it as basically anything like that, like a time. Like, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., May, June, July, some specific point in the space-time continuum. Okay. Ni. Ni is going to be our purpose or direction particle. It has a whole bunch of different functions. It's used all the time. In this instance, it is going to be used to indicate a time. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that in this instance, it is a direction, but the direction is the time. So what are you pointing at? You're pointing at the time that a verb or the phrase is going to happen, anything after this time. Okay, and then we have the verb. Now, the verb is going to be the action or whatever is going to happen at that time. So if you said that in June, I'm going to run a marathon, running that marathon, that's your verb. That's your phrase that's going to happen at that time. That's what the noun time ni is describing, is when are you going to run the marathon at noun time ni. Now, here's what I was talking about, that all time is not included in noun time ni, and that is because all relative time does not need the ni, and it doesn't just not need it, it shouldn't have the ni. So this shouldn't be does not need, it should be more or less cannot have the ni. It actually sounds weird, it doesn't sound natural if you put the ni after it. So for example, what is relative time? So relative time would be anything that relates to the current time right now that changes based on what the time is now. So for example, if you want to say yesterday or tomorrow, that is always changing. Today's yesterday is not going to be tomorrow's yesterday. It is relative to the current time we are in. Other things like next month or the previous month, those are all relative times as well. Next year, the previous year, stuff like that. That is all going to be relative time because it relates to the current time that we are in right now. It is not set in stone. So next month is going to change based on where you are in the space-time thing, in the timeline of, I guess, our universe. So if it is a relative noun, then you don't use the ni after the time. And one other thing to note is that when you have yobi, like a day, like nichi yobi, do yobi, a day, the ni is optional. So you can put it there, you can not put it there. It's fine both ways. It sounds perfectly fine both ways. And also if you have other things like asa, hiru, ban, and yoru, those are usually like the morning, the afternoon, the evening, that stuff, that is also where the ni is optional. So even though the morning, the afternoon, and the evening is technically related to the current time, I guess it's generalized enough that the morning is always going to be kind of, the same time no matter where it is, that it can get the ni and it can. It can get the ni or, you can completely exclude it. It's completely fine. And then also days. Days would be the only thing that I think might be a little iffy, but just remember that if you're talking about a day, the ni is not needed. You can put it in there, but it's not needed. But all those other ones I was talking about, next month, last month, stuff like that, you should not put the ni particle after it. It would sound unnatural. Okay, let's go ahead and go through a couple of example sentences. The first one is, I will go to Japan in June. Rokugatsu ni Nihon ni ikimasu. Now, here's what I was saying. This is a set in time. Rokugatsu, that is always going to be the 6th month of the year. It does not change based on what year it is. It will always be the 6th month of the year. So therefore, you need to put ni after it to specify that this is a time. And then after that, this is our event. Nihon ni ikimasu. Now, like I said, this isn't always directly a verb, like right after it. So that's why I said that even though this said verb, it was noun ni verb. It's not always exactly a verb. It's whatever the phrase is. What is the action going to be? So what you're saying right now is this action right here, this action, nihon ni ikimasu. When is it going to happen? It's going to happen on the 6th month. So on the 6th month, which would be June in English, I will be going to Japan. So remember, if the time is kind of set, then it is going to be ni. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next example. Okay, the next example is yesterday I went to school. Kino gakko ni ikimashita. Now this is a example of when you shouldn't use ni. If you notice, kino does not have ni after that. That is because this is a relative time. It is related to the current time right now. Today, whatever today's yesterday is, it's not going to be tomorrow's yesterday. So this is relative, and therefore it does not have the ni after it. But it still is describing when this event, when the phrase after it happens. So gakko ni ikimashita. Gakko is school, of course, and then ikimashita, of course, is to go. So our phrase, when did you go to school? That would be yesterday. It is describing the time when it happened. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to our last example. Our last example is, what are you doing Friday? Kinyobi ni nani o shimasu ka? First thing I should note is I messed that up. That should be the na, not the wa particle. Or not particle, but hiragana. So that is nani, not hani. But other than that, this is one of those cases where ni is optional. So you could put it here. It could be kinyobi ni nani o shimasu ka, or it can be kinyobi nani o shimasu ka. Both are perfectly fine. So this falls into, of course, that one category that I was talking about at the end, where it falls into the yobi category. The reason that this didn't have all of the days listed out was just because every single day of the week ends in yobi, so they didn't feel the need to put that. But every single day of the week can have the ni, doesn't need it though. So if I was going to go ahead and make a guess, yet again, I'm not native, so I don't know the exact percentage of when people use ni versus when they don't use ni, but if I was going to be speaking it, I would not use ni because it's just easier to say. So I would assume that in most cases, just dropping the ni would be perfectly fine, unless you really want to emphasize when something was, like kinyobi ni nani o shimasu ka, like, you know, you want to specify when are you doing this, then you might throw in the particle. But yet again, either way sounds natural, completely fine. And then of course our nani just means what, and then shimasu is doing, and then our ka structure for creating a question. So that is the end of today's lesson. I know it's a bit of a short lesson, but I hope it made a whole lot of sense to you that whenever you want to say when something is, if the time is not relative, you need to put the ni after that. That specifies the time when something is happening. So when the verb phrase or whatever the phrase after that is happening. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, keep studying Japanese, everyone. All right, see you next time.